Hi guys, welcome back to Vedic Astrology. I have been running behind with my schedule, guys. I was supposed to shoot this video much earlier and come back on the channel, but sincere apologies for the delays. I've been really occupied at my own end. But we will be talking about third lord in all the 12 houses of Vedic astrology today. So without further ado, guys, let's try and understand what does third house stand for, and then based on that we will try and understand what is the third lord. And I'm going to put up on the screen here for you guys to understand very simply across your zodiac sign. So if you are an Aries ascendant, for example, your third house is that of Gemini and your third lord happens to be Mercury, right? Or for example, if you're a Scorpio ascendant, then your third house is that of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. So you can go through the list and understand what exactly is your third house based on your ascendant, and understand what is your third lord as well. Now, guys, third house, as we've talked in our other video as well, I recently shared a video where I talked about how to read your astrological chart. And if you've not had a chance, please check out that video. It's a good video for you to understand the basics of how to understand various houses and what would it mean for you. But the third house essentially represents, your entire hard work, the efforts that you bring to the table, and that is the first and foremost thing that I look when I'm looking at the third house, because it is the representation of the energy that you bring to the table. It is also, talking about your hobbies, your short distance travel. It is your siblings. It is, from a body perspective, a representation of your arms. But most importantly, if you see from the first house itself, which is a representation of your personality, and then we went to the second, it's an extension of what you take into the next. It is second to the third house, sorry, second to the second house itself, right? The third house. So that is why it's an extension of the force that you bring to the table, with respect to all the resources that you see from the second house. So, which is your strength, which is depicted into the outcomes that you carry in your life. And that, for a student, it would be the amount of energy you would put in terms of studying and grasping some subject, to a soldier who might pick up a battle and fight hard on the ground, to somebody like me who's working in a tech industry and try and bring as much effort in terms of bringing and meeting new customers and things like that. So you have to see in all spheres of your life, how do you bring that energy to the table. Okay. And then depending on the kind of planets you have, you see the results as well. So third house, it's considered to be a trigpav. It's a challenging house, but it also grows over a period of time. It's an opchya house, sorry. So it grows over a period of time, and typically what is seen is that the malefic planets tend to do pretty well when it comes to these kind of placements. So your Mars or Saturn, it's a very good energy to have these kind of planets here. Even a Rahu, which will bring that level of expansion and growth for you, if that planet is placed here. However, on the other side, if you have softer planets like a Mercury or a Venus or a Moon or a Jupiter, they would typically struggle. Doesn't mean that you anticipate any negative results out of it, but it is a challenging placement for these soft planets into this kind of a house, because it's a difficult house, and it has its own outcomes. So now we will talk about, if you've understood the impact of third house itself, we will discuss as to what happens when third house gets into your third house lord gets into your first house. Okay, so it is going 11 places away from itself, and it is coming onto the Lagna itself. So as I had mentioned about the relationship between 1 and 3rd in my Lagna Lord video, if you have not had a chance, go back and check that out. You will realize that this is, in my perspective, a very good placement. And the reason I say is that it brings all the elements of energy, hard work, to the core of your personality itself. When you have the third lord present in the first house, it makes you a person who is very driven, motivated, energetic. You do not shy away from work. You are a person who tends to take up responsibilities and drive them to conclusion. So that is one of the most strong impacts that you can see in a good placement. Of course, you have to see the dignity of the third lord in the first house as well, as to what kind of sign placement it is present and how comfortable the planet is. But usually, one of the big strengths that you will find is that you are the guys who are extremely enterprising. If any challenge is thrown at you, you will take up those responsibilities and run with this. It is also a placement that depicts entrepreneurship to a large extent. Third house lord being in the first house brings that ability as well to the table. Now, I know, some of you have been commenting about, certain statements that I make with respect to the house movements, and you kind of challenge it that you don't see it. Doesn't mean if something is not applicable to you, is not applicable to somebody else, right? So, for example, taking a reference of entrepreneurship, you necessarily may not be an entrepreneur if you have the third house lord in the first house itself, right? Something else might pan out for you, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't hold true, right? So each of these placements have different kinds of impacts on different charts, and of course you have to see the dignity as well, as I kept repeating in my previous video as well. So you also sometimes see that these kind of people are working in the tourism industry, they have a hobby, because third house represents hobby as well, where they would have a lot of interest in terms of connecting with people of different culture, or have short distance travel. They love to explore new places, or they would pick up habits which are somehow connected with this kind of a trait, or they would have a lot of interest in adventure sports as well. So a lot of you who would like to go rappelling or skydiving and things like that, you would see that there is a connection of your third lord coming in your first house, right? It'll give you that trigger as well. Now, there is a negative connotation as well, as I keep talking to my audience, and the negative aspect of this could be that it could bring a riskier trait of making you extremely lazy. Yes, it's completely opposite to what I've been talking in terms of being enterprising and hardworking and stuff. Especially if it is a Saturn, situation where, and that would be in the case of Scorpio, right? For example, Scorpio would have the third house as Capricorn, right? So in that case, if Saturn moves here and there is no proper, oversight of another planet, either having some sort of parivartan yoga, which is exchange yoga, or an aspect of some benefit, then typically the ascendant will have tendencies of becoming lazy. It also brings traits, if it is a malefic, it will bring traits of people having an, some additional connections outside their family, right? Which might lead to a negative situation from a family perspective as well, separations and things like that. So that's also a trait which is seen for these kind of people. There could be risks of injuries happening or accidents happening, in terms of road accident for some people, if they are not it could be minor accident in terms of you banging your car, or just scraping your cars and stuff whilst driving during short travels itself. So those kind of things is something that you would also want to take note of. Doesn't mean it might impact everybody listening this video, but you might want to have some bit of understanding as to how this can play a role. But given the fact that it is 11 places away from itself, so typically you will have a lot of gain with the efforts that you would be making. So you could gain from your siblings, or in a different scenario, your siblings could be richer than you, right? They might have more wealth, more well to do financially when compared to you and your family. That is another possibility that might come into play. You would also see that you could gain in terms of collaboration with your siblings, with your younger siblings, in terms of doing some sort of business, or they might introduce you to certain avenues from your career perspective, which might help you in the long run. So that is another possibility. There is also a possibility of you succeeding in social media or in writing, because mass communication is also seen from the third house, right? And when the third house lord comes to your first house, means your personality is very much driven. So you could be a very confident speaker as well. You could go out and present your thoughts at large scale, typically through social media, a platform like YouTube or Instagram and things like that. It could also result into you bringing some success if there is some connection with a Rahu or a Venus in the space of acting. It's something at a larger scale that we see. It typically needs to have some sort of connection with the seventh house as well. But a Venus and Rahu aspect connection somehow with the third house lord could bring that ability as well. So hope you like this, guys. Please subscribe to the video and keep spreading the word about Dev astrology. Now we will talk about third house lord coming to the second house. Okay, so this is also interesting yoga in which you can have both positive and negative situations. Now, from a positive perspective, if you see your lord of your enterprising nature, your mass communication, your siblings and stuff is getting connected to your second house, which is 12th to itself, right? And it is getting connected to your family, to your speech, to your savings, which again gives a very direct interpretation that it could bring ability of you working with your family and your siblings, maybe a joint family sort of a venture, and do something of your own. It could mean that you're running your own business, or your family members and siblings, they help you establish you in your own career, or they helping you in terms of growing your wealth. All of these possibilities come into play when these two connections happen, especially if you have a an exchange happening, let's say in this case, or any kind of aspect between the third lord moving to the second house and second lord aspecting that as well. It could be very, very auspicious and good, right? So I immediately see that this brings a lot of enterprising nature again, and this could be more of bringing growth, wealth in conjunction to your family, to your siblings, and a joint family sort of a structure. Now, what you also see is that this could be in very specific areas. For example, food industry is a very good example. Travel industry, blogging. These are some of the examples that will bring a lot of success to the natives if they are having this kind of a conjunction or this kind of connection happening between the two houses. Now, you have to understand as well that a lot of times when the third house lord is going 12th to itself, it also brings loss of all those abilities, which means that you would see possibility of laziness creeping into you, which could distance you from your family. This is one scenario where the native tend to become extremely procrastinating by nature. You tend to push things for a future point in time, or you expect your family to do some stuff for you and you don't want to take the initiatives yourself. That is a very high probability with a lot of you experiencing in your chart as well. And this could create differences within the family as well, because what would happen is, in some of the charts that I've seen, the native tends to have an expectation of certain work being done by their surrounding ecosystem, and they tend to shred from owning up the responsibility. And I was reading this chart for an individual who who's the youngest person in the family, actually not the youngest, the third person, and there was another sibling for this person. And typically he would lean on to the elder ones taking care of whatever is expected in the family business. Even his spouse was not very happy about the nature that he was developing, and he was having some issues in his married life as well, and no other reasons for that matter. Laziness was one of the biggest factors that were associated, and it was a joint reading I did with a spouse, so that quite evidently came out when we discussed about it. So I think you may want to notice this in your chart, and as we keep on talking here, please try and learn to rule your charts, learn to rule your planets. You have to take a note that is this something that is happening in your case as well, because it's the loss of the third house moving into the second, right? But having said that, you would also see that you have tendencies to do to travel for short distances, explore different kinds of culture, new cuisine, try different kind of food. You bring a lot of savings for your family, through your family and through the efforts in conjunction with everyone. Communication could be something which could be a strong factor for wealth creation for you. So you could have a job profile that requires you to go, you are either in a sales sort of role in your industry, or you go and do different kinds of conferences, or you are a motivational speaker. That is also potentially seen in this proposition, where you get the support of your family and friends, and that is how you kind of generate savings and wealth for you. So even religion related aspect, being a spiritual leader or speaker can also come into play. But it depends on the planet here. Jupiter could bring that ability. Ketu can bring that ability as well. But if Ketu is here, you will see a lot of distance and separation, the other element that I was talking about from a family perspective. So you might want to see how the placements are happening. But yes, now we will talk about the third house lord in the third house itself. Typically, as I keep on saying, any planet which is sitting in its own house, in its own placement, is a good placement to have. Now, when the third house lord is sitting in the third house itself, of course, it's going to impact. It is in the own sign and it is aspecting directly your ninth house. So, a lot of impact of your father or superiors does come in your life. It's a good impact, so to speak, that you have in your life. Uh, you will, of course, be shredding any kind of laziness. I mean, that is not a trait that is associated with you guys. You guys are hardworking, motivated, driven. You have good support of your siblings, typically good built as well, strong from a physical strength perspective. You could have very strong communication skills, especially when it comes to oration or written skill at a mass level. If somebody wants to kind of validate what is being sent in a formal note out to the world, say in their office space, I think you are the people to come and consult and make sure that you do a proofread of those emails. I mean, that is the kind of non-ambiguous, direct, consistent communication is what you guys bring to the table. So that's a very strong trait that comes into play. You guys love traveling as well, both short distances and long distances, and you gain out of it. So when the third lord is here, the best part is that a lot of professional success also comes to people when they do travel a lot. It is very much possible that traveling could be a huge part of your profession. You could be in travel and tourism industry, you could be actually in a sales role, you could be a consultant who has to travel and meet different kinds of clients and customers on a regular basis. So all those elements will come into play. I do not see any negatives here, unless and until a soft planet, as I mentioned at the start of a video, like a Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, is getting majorly afflicted. If not, actually malefics tend to do pretty well out here. So your Rahu, typically in the sign, in its own sign, which is that of Aquarius, or Mars or Saturn, they tend to excel and do extremely well. And it brings a lot of energy and fighting spirit as well within you guys, if you have this kind of a placement. So now we will talk about the third house lord moving into the fourth house. If you see, the lord is now going second to itself, and it is fourth to the lagna, right? To the ascendant. Now, fourth house, as we all know, it is your assets, it is your mother, it is your peace of mind, it is the true knowledge that you have in your head. And when the third lord is going into this placement, I consider it to be, again, in general, it is considered to be a good movement. Why? Because see, when you move second to yourself, you bring all the traits of the second house, right? It is your resources, your ability to conserve and preserve, that is also carried. So everything related to your hard work, or your siblings, or your hobbies, or your mass communication, that gets preserved and helps you build assets here. So when you have your third lord sitting in the fourth house, means you will be, you will be striving hard to grow your own assets, or you would strive hard your hobbies. You have to understand from all quarters, guys. Your hobbies would be such that they would give you peace of mind, right? Because third house could depict that too. So say you have a habit of trekking, right? So you would collect the right assets in terms of your backpacks and other supplies that you need to carry for a tough trek. You will keep on building that over a period of time, and every time you experience or you go out in a group to plan a trek or execute a trip of such sorts, it will bring you happiness as well. So that sort of connection is also seen. It is also possible that you would help or get help from your siblings to create a lot of assets. They could be extremely critical in terms of providing you inputs or support or resources in creating your savings, especially your younger ones, right? In fact, your younger ones, given that this is the third house lord that we're talking about. So when the third house lord is going second to itself, it also means that it will bring a lot of strength at your workplace, in your profession, because you will be aspecting your 10th house as well. So you could be very, very career oriented. Your peace of mind could come in terms of how you perform at your work, and you might have a situation or tendencies of fading away boundaries between work and home, right? But I think this is not a terrible situation to be in, because you guys somewhere know that this is what makes you happy. It'll help you grow, and that enterprising nature is something that will help you bring that wealth creation in the long term as well. Now, I typically do not anticipate any kind of problems other than health related risks that could come to your mother. And the reason I'm talking about that is fourth house again represents the mother as well, and third house, which is a tough house, it could bring all its ailments and challenges uh, uh, to your mom as well. And the only call out that I would want to give you is that you might want to take special attention and notice to your mom to figure out what kind of health checks are needed, or what kind of support is needed to her, because typically you guys would notice who are having this placement, there is some kind of hidden disease or long term disease that could be associated with your mother. It could also be related to some sort of issues with her hands or arms, any kind of accidental situations that could arise. So that's the only caveat call out that I would have for you guys. But overall, this is a very decent connection that happens. Now, when the third lord is moving into the fifth house, okay. So if you see here, there's a very interesting movement. Third lord going third to itself. In Vedic astrology, it's the concept of bhavarth bhavam, which means that how many positions away from yourself or from itself that Lord is moving when it is n places away for the nth Lord, if that makes sense. Like fifth Lord, 5 places away from itself. So in this case, when the third Lord goes to the fifth house, this third this bhavarth bhavam comes into play. So again, in my mind, it's an interesting connection, because it is going to a very good house. It is going into the house which is a Lakshmi Sthan. It is the house of creativity. It is the house of education. It is the house of your kids. It is the house of speculation, stock markets, and whatnot. So when your energy, your hard work, your orientation, your hobbies go in that direction, you would realize that your hard work will be growing in magnitude in all of these areas. So some of you would find that you have a deep interest in studying and understanding how stock market or trading works, and you will be putting in a lot of interest time, effort, energy to learn that, to grasp that, or to educate yourself in that space, and you will also build your wealth in that direction. It will be slow and steady wealth creation prospect for you. Some of you would notice that you have a lot of interest in terms of the quality of education you are pursuing. This is a again a very strong sign of good education coming in your life. It is an example where you will either finance your education yourself, or you could end up taking very difficult decisions going beyond your ability to pursue something as an education feat which nobody else would have imagined, and it is just your vision, your dream, your hard work that has led to this. It could, for example, you might not have financial means to prepare to crack an Ivy League competition or one of the top colleges, but you just go and push yourself to that extent and achieve that. So that is also seen from this placement. It is also possible that you guys could bring a lot of effort, energy towards the growth of your children, towards the growth of your kids, education of your kids. It could, in a negative situation, and all these things are what are happening from a positive aspect, but in a negative situation it could also mean delays coming. You might find challenging situation in terms of having your kid, or conceiving, so to speak, if I'm talking about any female or even male audiences for that matter, right? Now, in a tough, turbulent situation, what I see is, especially, it could give actually mixed results if we have a soft planet coming into the fifth house, but third to itself. But a malefic would actually be more problematic in this space, because guys, we need to understand fifth house is much purer, and it is the house of your past life karmas as well. It is an accumulation of all of that. So your effort could also go into addressing some of the pain points, prarabdha as we call in Hindi or in Sanskrit, which means that it is what it is meant to be. So some of the challenges of third house when carried into the fifth house is also possible when this kind of a connection is happening in your chart, and you may want to evaluate that, is that resulting into some of the negative impacts as well, typically when malefics are associated. But I feel that this is one of the good associations, because fifth house is a pure house, and third to third is a good impact happening on the Lord itself. Now we will quickly talk about third Lord moving into the sixth house. So the third lord is moving four places away from itself, but it is going in a turbulent. It is going in a turbulent house. It's going into the house of litigation. It is going into the house of health, loans, enemies. It is also a house that represents your job. So when third house lord comes to the sixth house, what happens is that you will see a lot of times in a good scenario, you will see the person is very motivated and driven to find the right job. They would want to put the best foot forward in terms of their career. They have this sort of drive within them to perform and outshine in the workplace that they are operating in, and typically they tend to enjoy the job that they're in. They find happiness and success and growth in that space. It could also be seen that these are the first generation professions professionals from their family. And what I mean to say is that these could be, you guys could be the people who became, let's say, a doctor or a lawyer for the very first time in your life, in your clan. So you are the first person to achieve that. Your father or your grandfather might have had a different kind of a profession, and you've changed the line and you've picked up a new profession in your life. So it could bring that ability as well. Even banking sort of work is very much possible, where you are in the mortgage sort of segment at your workplace, right? So that is also possible. This is also a situation where you could be because we are moving 4 places away, you will see that most of your wealth creation that has happened after your success at a particular job in a particular field itself. So you might struggle in the initial few days of your career, but buying the right property, buying the right car, taking loans and then expanding on your assets, those kind of traits are also seen with this person. So you will, and now somebody could say that Dave, everybody has to go for mortgage and then get a car, or everybody has to go for a home loan and then you can build your house. Of course, that is true. I agree to that. But in this case, the people who it is going to suit them more. Like they are going to be very aggressive in terms of getting one loan, build some equity, use that to get another mortgage and buy another property. You see the mindset of the person, it's very different from just taking one loan and sitting around. No. So you guys will be building something from one property to another and leveraging this cash flow rotation expertise with yourself, and it'll come naturally to you guys. But on a negative side of things, there could be certain challenges as well, and the challenges that you could anticipate is a lot of time your energy could be wasted into unnecessary things. It could be any kind of physical ailments that you might have. There is also a possibility of divorce that you could see from your chart if your third house lord is in the sixth house. Why? Because sixth house does represent that as well. And the people who watch my channel, they know I do not like to focus much on the negativities and the challenges of our houses, but I got a few comments that I should try and capture holistically what are the possibilities. So I'm giving an excerpt on that too. So you might want to see that you could be at risk of carrying a certain physical ailment throughout, or some of the habits that you might pick up might lead into a physical situation. So there is a possibility of people having smoking as a habit, or drinking, etc., could also be seen, because it's the hobby that is going to bring certain medical challenges and ailments to you. It is also a possibility that you could get into a certain loan, especially if your third lord gets debilitated here. For example, you could get in a situation where, or it is impacted by a malefic. You could get in a situation here where you can go for loans and then you keep struggling. All your loss of energy is happening to keep addressing that particular loan. So you might want to be very, very careful if you have this kind of a placement. Alimony payment could also be seen through this, because it is like a stretch that continues to happen over a long period of time. So you may want to see how this works out for you and then see that what you can do in your life to make it better. Okay. And if you've liked this, guys, please subscribe to the video. Now we will talk about the third house lord moving into the seventh house. If you see from here, what's happening is it is going 5 places away. 5 places away, it's a good movement. 3, 7, and 11. If you see these houses, they are all forming the Kam Trikon, right? So it's an upgrade of one Kam Trikon house to the other. It is going to a higher elevation of itself, which could have both positive and negative connotations. Positive connotation is that you are going to be extremely enterprising, starting your own business, starting your own venture would be of very, very high priority for you guys. You are the people who are dreamers, who want to build something big, long lasting, and you love to collaborate in the marketplace, very, very open, aggressive out in the market, so to speak. It could also mean that you guys go for a love marriage, or are obsessed with your spouse, with your life partner, because you will go leap and bounds to make sure that you get married to the right person. It's all about taking that right leap of faith, and believing in the other party, in the other person that you connect with. So very, very high chances that when the third house lord is going into the seventh house, you will see that love marriages do transpire. It is a fifth connection as well. So lot of times, guys, I think this is a past life karma. The partner that you guys would have, would be someone who's meant to be. Now, of course, we keep on saying that even marriages are made in heaven, and your partners are pre-decided and things like that. But I think specifically in this case, there is some sort of karmic association that you have with a person in this life that you meet, and you are there to fulfill that through them, and they are your there is some sort of past life connection that is carried into this life as well, is my belief. When the third lord gets connected to the seventh house, it's a it's also a very good culmination in terms of having wonderful kids. You could meet your spouse through at some educational institute, or while pursuing your education itself during that period. So it kind of blooms and blossoms over a period of time, and it's all a happy go lucky kind of a situation for you guys. In a negative scenario, this could also risk you having additional affairs outside of your marriage, especially because there is a lot of energy, there is a lot of bursting energy that you guys have, and that gets ported into making new connections, new partners. Not necessarily would mean post marriage, but is definitely an indicator of having multiple partners in life. That is definitely possible, which with this kind of a placement, unless and until you have a Jupiter or some kind of a benefic planet aspecting it. But in most other cases, you will find that this scenario is very much applicable. Now, fifth to itself also means that you bring a lot of creativity. And that could also mean that in your personal private bedroom life, you will bring a lot of creativity to the table to your partner. You will surprise your partner as well. So that is also seen with this placement. The other thing is that from a marketplace standpoint, which is when I talk about from a professional standpoint, you are very much open to work in newer models. The risk taking appetite is so huge with you guys that you would go out and say, I'm happy to work in a outcome based model or a gain share model. I'm going to bring XYZ impact to your business, and I'm going to take a cut out of it. You will not straight away give a direct pricing to your customer, right? So you will not say that, I've built, let's say, this printer, and buy this printer from me, or buy this lamp for me, and it's going to cost you $20. No, you're going to say, I'm going to sell this lamp to you, and if you feel that you feel happy while it is lit in your home and it gives you satisfaction, that is when I would want you to pay me, and I would now want $25. So you want higher rewards as well to the risk that you're taking. Are you able to connect the dots, guys? So this is a very high risk appetite placement, and a very strong one. You guys could be very, very creative in the way you deal with the marketplace. So very interesting one. I think you just want to be careful if you have any kind of malefic impacts sitting in the seven, but it's an elevation of a calm trikon from one house to the other. It's the elevation, and we will talk about what happens when it comes to the 11th house. But I think it's a good placement, so to speak. Now, when the third house lord is moving to the eighth house, what happens in this case, guys? So if you see, it is going 6 places away from itself, and it is going to the eighth house, one challenging house to another. It's actually not a bad situation to be in, because it is sort of how a Vipreet Rajyog would operate. I know Vipreet Rajyog, we typically talk about 6, 8, 12, but you get the intent here. What we see is that when the third house lord is moving into the eighth, there is a lot of transformation that will come in your life. There is a lot of sudden change that would come in your life based on your efforts, or with the habits that you have, or the kind of travel that you do, or because of your siblings. Any of those things could bring. So and I will have to talk about negatives to begin with, but we'll talk about what positive impact would also happen. But in a riskier situation, there is some sort of unfortunate physical ailment or medical situation that arrives to your younger sibling, and that completely changes your perception towards life, towards health, towards fitness, or makes you a lot more spiritual in terms of your mindset, brings more interest in the occult, those kind of things. I have actually seen situations where somebody unfortunately lost their sibling during school days itself, and it kind of changed their entire personality, and they had this connection, and it was like a slow departure for that person due to the ailment of this younger sibling, right? So that is very much possible. It's a I mean, I don't know, I'm nobody to call it as a negative or a positive, but it's something tricky that is seen from this placement. It is also possible that you can reform your life for good with your own efforts, right? You can put in or you can transform yourself. You could acquire a completely new skill uh, uh, in an unheard space. We've seen so many situations where a person gets laid off from job, okay, and that person picks up a profession in an entirely new space, moving away, let's say, from tech and doing something in the fashion industry, or in the food industry. Food especially, guys, if it is somehow a connection with moon happening. I know moon is not happy here, but it's very much possible, very much. Venus, for example, could bring that change, that transformation. Your transformation could be, or you could see some sort of sudden gains or losses coming into your life because of your own decision making, and this could be especially related to your hobbies. So if you have any kind of art collection, for that matter, or if you pick up habits in terms of doing something related to tourism and travel, that could suddenly give you a loss, unexpected loss, uh, because of some litigation related matters or health related matters. And I'm not able to articulate it appropriately, but I'll try and give an example, guys. Say you are trying to be in an Airbnb industry, okay, and you invest in a property, and I mean, you're trying to show that enterprising behavior, but 6 houses away from itself, you take a particular mortgage, invest into something in a remote place, anticipating that it will grow, but it doesn't work out. That sort of a thing is possible. You have to extrapolate those kind of examples to figure out how it could impact you. It is a very tricky situation for you to be in. It is also a possibility that you could gain from occult, from astrology, from doing research. A lot of deep researchers, scientists, etc., can be seen from this placement as well, where PhD related education or education with respect to very specific areas, for example diabetic research, cancer research, those kind of things, avenues, are also seen, where you immerse yourself. And these are the positive signs that I'm trying to talk about. You immerse yourself into educating yourself into very niche areas related to health, that then do larger good for the people as well, right? So that is your third house lord in your eighth house. Now, third house lord in your ninth house. This is when it is going 7 places away from itself. It's a good placement. Why? Because when it goes 7 places to itself, it will be aspecting back to its own sign, its own house. It is going to a placement where it is your third house lord is connected with your superiors, it is connected with your father, it is connected to the spiritual aspects in your life. It is also an association of short term travel to long term travel, or your hobbies actually getting built in that space. So a lot of you could be interested in spiritual matters. You could actually take you could actually travel to different places, both near and far, to educate and elevate yourself in that space. Or it is also a possibility that the spouse that you get married to might be very spiritual in nature. Guys, it is 7 to itself, and that connection will come into play. Okay, the spouse could be more like highly spiritual in nature, and might carry you along in that journey. Like she or he might drag you in that journey along with them. So they are the ones who will take the lead in the marriage, and help you elevate yourself as well. And you will put efforts, like you will put effort along with them in that journey. But that connection is also very much possible. So when the third house lord is in the ninth house, it is also possible that you might have to serve, or you really like to serve your father. Uh, like in the Animal movie, I mean, I've not even finished watching that movie, but uh, there is this level of awe, or really being respectful and crazy for one's dad. That sort of a connection is very much possible. It might also be possible that you end up serving your bosses a lot, so you might end up creating growth or expansion to your superiors at workplace. You might want to take a note of it and figure out that it is just not leading them to rise from you, and you are also gaining out of it. Please do a watch in terms of understanding your own chart, okay? That is important, but that is highly possible. I've seen so many charts where people really slog hard, but all the credit goes to their superiors or somebody else in their team, and they really do not gain much out of it. So that is something very important to note if this is something happening for you. Okay. Then the other bit is that you will see that you gain out of long distance travel. So you could be a person who is in a profession. Your career is getting built where you are required to meet your clients or customers far away from your workplace. Good example for this could be people who work in the big consulting firms, the big fours, and the other large strategy consulting firms in the market. That is very much possible, because typically you are on long haul, long hop journeys for your clients, 4 days a week, and then you get the last 3 days for yourself and your family. Very, very much possible in that chart as well. I think I do not anticipate much of a negative situation here, only that in certain uh, cases, especially when it is Saturn, it could actually lead to renunciation as well. That's an extreme situation, but a higher elevation of self is seen with this kind of a placement. But yes, in some charts, actually in the yogic charts, if you go and notice, it's an indication of a person renouncing the material world and picking something grander uh, call in their life. So you might want to see that if that sort of thing is there in your chart or not. And I'm not a huge proponent of anything of that sort, guys, because I feel that we've been given this birth to accomplish everything in life, every aspect of life. So you've got to do that before you elevate yourself to the next journey at the right point in time, when both spiritually, mentally, emotionally you are equipped to do that. And that's why just keep a note of that particular aspect. Now, when the third house lord is moving to the 10th house, it's a very interesting placement, guys, because it is moving eight houses away from itself, but it is going to the house of public appearances, fame, your karma. From the house of dharma to the karma is what we are moving to now, and it's an interesting placement because now your effort, energy will all be focused towards the hard work that you bring in. And it is sort of connected to the fourth house, guys. If you've not listened to the fourth house and straight away jumped here, please go back and do that. Click on that and listen to it, because now what will happen is, one, in the previous case it was not that much of an obsession, but in this case you guys will have a lot of obsession towards your work. Like, you would really, really want to grow, or there is a possibility that there is a huge role of your siblings, or your hobby could itself be your profession, right? Like, so many YouTubers, they have a very strong third to 10th connection, because they started with their hobby, and that just you know uh, blew up in size to such an extent, that mass communication aspect, that has become a full-time revenue engine for those guys. So that kind of obsession, that kind of connection through a social media is very much possible, guys. Please check that previous part. As I mentioned, the third to fourth as well, you will be able to connect a lot of dots, because both fourth and 10th are bang opposite, 180-degree opposite to each other, and you will see what's happening. This will also lead into you putting in the efforts that help you grow your assets in size, because again it is aspecting your fourth house. It could bring lot, your peace of mind will be actually driven through your hard work and driven through your profession. So that's going to be very, very much possible in your cases, folks. It is, I wouldn't say it is it's more like a dhan yoga coming into play in my mind, because it's a very, very good situation of self-employment. Ultimately, you guys, even if you are in a job today, listening, watching this video, trust me, one day or the other you are going to move away and establish something of your own. You're gonna run something of your own, big in size, and that is what is going to give you the satisfaction that you seek. Because uh, you all the energy that you bring in is focused towards your karma, and your karma, if for seen for a selfish reason, could be to elevate yourself. Or it is also seen that people with this combination, you could be a person who is pursuing something in the public life. You could be a public servant or a government servant, doing a job at a higher leadership position for the government. If it is Saturn, it could be like city mayor level, those kind of things as well. If it is Sun, it is more of a larger government scale that we're talking about. But you will be like in the public life. You could also have a Rahu sort of a connection could give you a political angle, or a public persona in terms of acting skills as well. And I was talking about Rahu and Venus in that a few minutes back. If you guys want, please rewind and check, because I referred to that at the start of the video. Okay. So that is also a possibility that might come into your chart, because you might exhibit some of the tendencies to serve it. It could also bring a ability in you guys to go for fame or chase fame in your life, and that gives you a lot of satisfaction, that gives you the happiness that you seek. So your karma is going to be oriented in that space. It's a good combination. I do not see any major issues from this. Of course, the kind of profession will depend on your third lord and the 10th lord as well. Okay, so I will not deep down double down into the profession area. Why? Because I plan to definitely do a double click on 10th house and the Samsa chart, your D10 chart, and all those aspects as well. So we will do that at a later point in time. But I hope that gives you a clarity as to how this is going to be operating. Now, when the third house lord is going into the 11th house, again, like I was talking about the 7th house, people who are listening to this, third lord into the 11th house, please also listen to third house into 11th house. That will give you a clarity. Just like that, it is a movement of the lord from one Kam Trikon to the next Kam Trikon. It is the pinnacle of the Kam Trikon, so to speak. And guys, please try and understand, when we say Kam Trikon, it means that what um, uh, drives you, what is something that you can rush in this life. And it could be anything. It could be money, it could be your physical desires, it could be your ambitions and goals, it could be anything. It is what you yearn for, right? So that is what Kam Trikon actually tells about. And you see, third house, 7th and 11th, they are all the ones that keep on growing. They keep representing, sorry, the Kam Trikon, and this is the peak of it, which means that the highest desire that you can strive for is what is going to happen in this case, right? So this will bring in your personality a tendency to really work hard towards your dreams, towards your ambitions. Again, in this, I also see a possibility of you being of enterprising nature, but it necessarily doesn't have to be. You could be working in your day-to-day job, you could be doing your pursuing your own hobby, but whatever you do, you are going to take it to the zilt, you are going to take it to the top, you are going to be absolutely finicky in terms of achieving that success. Your hobbies could be related in terms of your friend network. You could establish a large network because of your hobbies and the kind of things that you pursue. Or it is so that you will put in a lot of effort to expand your social network and do travel around with them, or pursue activities in a joint level. Your efforts will go into the gains that you want to build, or the wealth creation that you want to have on a day-to-day basis, any kind of wish fulfillment that you want to strive for. You will be constantly working towards achieving that, especially if it is a malefic planet. malefics tend to do pretty well here. Now, guys, when you write on your comments that Dev, this is not happening for me, that is not happening, the impact, see, impact is definitely going to come. I might not be able to cover 10 possibilities. When the two planets in the houses are getting connected, there could be 10 possibilities. I might capture 5 or 7. But the ones that I've missed will also be there. Doesn't mean that if the 5 that I've mentioned are not applicable to you, it's false. No, it could be applicable to somebody else. But you need to understand this, guys. This is an elevation of your desires. It is both good and bad in a way. Why bad? Because see, it's a it's an obsession that is going to that is never going to end in your life. Like it's a lifetime trait. This will define your character to a certain extent as well. But my thought process is, it is like a 9 houses movement away. Third lord going 9 houses away to the 11th house can be positive, because it brings that lucky charm as well. Like, you are fortunate if you dream or aspire for something, sooner or later that happens for you. And it happens for you because you create your own luck, guys. You are those sort of people. You create your own luck. So mostly it will now, what kind of desires you have, based on which the kind of outcome you will have in your life, is of course dependent on you. So you are the ones who are making your own karma. Remember that I had mentioned this in the third and ninth connection as well. The kind of karma you drive in your life, it will translate into the kind of outcome that you will gain. So that is that. But yes, usually malefics tend to do extremely well. A Rahu, a Ketu, or even a Mars, Sun, they tend to do very well in this kind of a situation, and it brings a lot of fame, fast growth, uh, uh, wealth creation, income generation for you guys. Okay. Now we will talk about the third house lord moving into the 12th house. So 12th house, it represents expenses, it represents foreign, it represents bed pleasures, it represents isolation, it represents spirituality, and all of those aspects could start getting impacted with this, right? And let me give an example that comes very close to my own network. Friend of mine, his brother, he was not even married. Right after his engineering, he quit everything and he joined ISKCON, and wanted to travel in the path of spirituality, right? And that's his call. But that elevation happened for his sibling very young in life. Now it is his third lord sitting in the 12th house. I'm trying to give you this one example that gives you a perspective of how it could not change your life, but the life of somebody in your family. Are you guys trying to connect the dots here? So please try to think from those angles when you are evaluating your chart. This is exactly what happened in my friend's case. Very close buddy of mine, and I mean, I just wanted to start with that example in this case. So this could bring a situation where your effort and energy or your siblings is going into the 12th house, uh, in a high risky tricky situations. It could bring negative habits, it could bring habits where your energy is getting consumed into not so great things like pursuing prostitution. I'm sorry I have to call this out, but a lot of times that is seen from this chart. When the third lord goes there, you could be obsessed about going into dark places, pursuing dark things in life. It could also be a situation where you are getting consumed because of your spendthrift nature and buying branded products. You see so many people who have this habit of buying products through credit card loans and stuff, and then they are just struggling to pay it off and stuff. That is also possible in this kind of a placement. It is also possible that you, as I connected the dot for my friend's brother, where you yourself or your sibling could burn your energy in terms of finding the higher pursuit in life. But it has a positive connotation as well, and I'm going to talk 12th house positive connotations. See, the third lord is going 10 places away, right? So your karma would also get associated, which means that you could bring in energy in terms of establishing something positive in that space. You could build a, your profession in an international country, in a foreign country, so to speak. You could have a an enterprise or your profession which needs international collaboration. That is very much possible in your chart, right? It is also possible that you might have to travel for work quite frequently, and that gives you success, and you are very, very driven in terms of doing that. You could be in a profession that takes a lot of time, effort, energy, doing work in isolation. It could be research related work, or it could be work like in hospitals, or working in these kind of isolated places, as I had referred before as well. So that is also a positive sign. It could be that you are somehow related to the healthcare industry, or you are related in the mortgage industry as well. That kind of possibility also happens, and you tend to grow. You tend to bring a lot of innovation in that space, and you tend to expand. It's another possibility that you can see is that the short term short distance travel that you would do would always be luxury travel. So there are some people who want to do budget traveling and want to spend minimalistic, but they want to explore a particular place. But you are the guys who might take a break from work for like 3-4 days, but you want extreme opulence. You want a 5-star, 7-star luxury stay, and you want to spend it maybe at an international locale or just close to your hometown, because it's a short distance travel, and you just want to spend on luxury in your travel at that point in time. You could get a lot of opportunities to travel for work, and your work will give you a lot of luxury. So you might not be able to afford it through your personal means, but your work, your firm, or the company that you work in, a multinational corporation, and that will give you a lot of avenues to travel. But it might not so happen for your family. It could be solo experiences that you can gain. So, guys, these are the different aspects that you can see in terms of how third lord collaborates in different houses. I hope you've liked the effort, time, energy that I've spent in terms of my third house with you guys. If you've liked the effort, please click on that like button and subscribe to my channel, and please spread the word about Dev Astrology. Thank you for watching. Om Namah Shivaya.